This week on Mixed and Mastered, I'm talking with Grace Harry, former MCA Records, Jive Records, and Def Jam Records executive, owner of Box Fresh Productions, artist manager, and Joy strategist. She's worked with Tribe Called Quest, Usher, Jay-Z, Kanye West, and Questlove, guiding their careers and reshaping modern music. Now Grace helps creators reconnect with purpose and protect their joy. Grace is all about the work and the energy behind the artist. This is Mixed and Mastered with Grace Harry. Welcome to Mixed and Mastered, the podcast where the stories of the music industry come to life. I'm Jeffrey Sledge, bringing you real conversations with the people who have shaped the sound of music. We're pulling back the curtain on what it takes to make it in the music business. These are the stories you won't hear anywhere else, told by the people who live them. This is Mixed and Mastered. Hello, Mixed and Mastered with a long-time friend. I haven't seen her in a long time. I'm very happy to see her today, Grace Harry. How are you, Grace?
I am so good, and I'm so happy to be here. Thank
You.
you.
You look great. You look great. You look amazing.
Thank you.
You
Thank
have a
you.
glow. You have a glow about you. You always did, but you do even more now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This is so fun because it's so rare to be on someone. We've been in a business where you know people for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been on so much podcasts with Torrey and Angie and different people. Not Angie's podcast, but she was on mine, which is exciting.
Yeah.
But this is a whole nother thing because I can honestly say, I have been in the music industry from the beginning alongside you.
Yeah.
So that's a whole different conversation.
Different energy. It's a whole different. Yeah. Because what I was noticing is when I was researching for the show, I kept finding stuff kind of like from a certain point in your career moving forward, like, with the book and I was like, no, I want to talk about the stuff way before. So we're going to do that today. So let's start at the beginning. Where were you born?
I was born in Staten Island by accident.
Wow.
My mother was a teenager and the story, somehow I get it wrong every time according to my mother, but somehow she was visiting another pregnant person and got pregnant, went into labor there.
Mm-hmm.
So I was born in Staten Island Hospital and then raised in Brooklyn.
You're raised in Brooklyn.
I have to quickly go to raised in Brooklyn. Very important.
Exactly. I'm going to say this before we move forward. I will always, I see you are very Brooklyn to me.
Thank you.
And I don't know if everybody sees that. I'm like, no, she's a Brooklyn girl. But I think people have a stereotype of what they think a Brooklyn girl is, whereas there's obviously very variations of a Brooklyn girl. To me, you are very Brooklyn. And I don't know. And I think sometimes people don't get confused. I'm like, if you know Brooklyn girls, then you that's what they are.
I also think that Brooklyn has, if now that we're at this senior age, right, and we're the elders, I can see very much talking to different people from different cultures about what a Brooklyn girl is. Like, I have some friends who have Russian, Polish immigrant grandparents, and that's a very, at that time, you know what I mean? Or people who are from Brooklyn, people who moved to Brooklyn, people who've gentrified Brooklyn. Yeah. So I think it's a confusion with each generation of what is the heart and soul of a place that makes you who you are.
Yeah. So tell me your first, what got you into music?
Yes. So funny.
Just as a kid, what you listening to it and what, was your mom playing records at house, or what was it that got you, going?
So my parents were teenagers, so there were always teenagers around. So I don't remember a house without music. It just never was a thing. And even to this day, I literally make playlists for the shower and playlists for sleeping and playlists for when people over and playlists for when cooking. So I always remember music. But some of the early moments that really excited me about embodying music, living in music, making a career out of music, which I had no idea what that even was a thing. But I remember my mother coming home with a Spinners album, and it was a double album, and they were in perforation, and you had to pierce them and make like a mobile, and it blew my mind. Or the Grease album, that was a double, and it was a those things. Or early movies. My mother, we used to go to Brooklyn Law School, had free movie nights, so we could afford that. So we would go and see whatever was playing there. And I remember seeing movies like Quadrophenia or Pink Floyd The Wall, or movies that were The Wiz, movies that were so embedded in the music was the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And those things just blew my mind. And so I've always loved that connection to something that you hear, but there's an experience around hearing.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's where it got me. And then years later, working as a chef, I
Mm-hmm.
was hanging out a lot in the music. In like that time, the music industry wasn't a music industry. If you were into music or arts of any kind, there was a place you hung out. So you would, as you know, you go to a danceteria or a Mars or a reggae lounge or a payday or, these clubs. It was a range of people, all who were into this concept. So I remember there was this guy named Dante Ross, not was, he's still a guy,
This guy.
a good friend of all of ours. He was a waiter at this restaurant called Tortilla Flats, and it was on Washington. You remember this?
Yeah, I didn't remember he was the waiter there, but I remember the
Yes.
place Tortilla Flats. Absolutely.
And for some reason, he still dated all my friends. Like my friend Jenna Hoffman was dating him for a moment. My friend Erica Kennedy was, no. Yeah. It was like he went through a million of my friends. And when he was dating Erica, we went out one night, took a picture of the three of us, me, Erica, and Leslie, and he had it on his wall. And this group that he newly signed, De La Soul, was in there with a friend of theirs who wasn't signed yet named Q-Tip. And then I went out to a party like a couple days later and met Riddler and Russell with Dante, and then met Paz and Q-Tip and Africa all together at once. And we just became instant friends. And I used to date this guy named Eves, who's good friends with Dante. And so Dante told Tip, oh no, she's not available. We had been broken up forever, but he was very like. So we were all hanging out, and I just started spending a lot more time. Being a chef, my hours are a little different. So I
Mm-hmm.
could go out at night and not be up early. I think I was 17 at the time.
Wow.
And I just started spending a lot of time with all of these people. I met Andre Harrell and all these different people. And I learned that this collective that was forming the Native Tongues, they were different because they were taking from a background that was more suburban, but they also were taking from a background that was closer to my actual background. And being a mixed person in the 70s was hard because everybody wanted you to decide. I
Yeah.
remember it was like a
Pick a
big thing
side.
when you meet people. Do you like rock or disco? And you had to choose. And I remember being like, both. I like rock and disco. So I really related to them because they were sampling music that people weren't aware of, but I was because of my mother and my upbringing.
Mm-hmm.
So it was interesting, and I formed a kind of a collective with them where I would bring in music, my movies, based on the samples they were playing when we were in studio sessions, and that's how I got invited into Jive Records with Tribe to meet Barry and you and everyone and help
Mm-hmm.
them kind of figure out what is the visual direction around this? And I had no idea. And then doing the cover and hanging out and being a part of all that in the first video. And then kind of, if you look at all those albums, they all ambiguously say, thank you, Gracie
Mm-hmm.
Harry. Not
Mm-hmm.
because I did anything official, but because I was so a part of like widening this musical opportunity for our
Mm-hmm.
voice.
Mm-hmm.
And
Wait.
that was,
We're gonna go back.
okay, good,
We're
good,
gonna
good,
go back a little bit.
good,
So
good.
we're gonna. Well, first of all, you bring up Dante. He's on my list of people to get on this show. He's a really good friend of mine
I'd
as
be
well.
loving some Dante.
Oh yeah. He's funny because he like this era you're talking about. He always says, "Yeah, I was a really good looking kid. I was a really good looking kid. I was dating all the models. I was a really good looking kid."
He was. He was
No, he was.
running
He
through
was.
them.
He was. Like, it was just like he was
Not
like the
necessarily my type.
downtown. Yeah, but he was like this downtown New York, like like it's interesting. Um, Timothy Chalamet, who's obviously like having a moment. I'm like that's Dante. That's Albie. That's a New York kid. Like that's if you don't know New York kids, you
Yes,
won't kind of understand that he's not new.
that's right.
He's not new, and I don't say that as disrespect to him because he's dope. I'm a fan of his work. I'm like that kid's been around since the '60s. You guys just didn't know. But anyway, let's talk about the chef thing. I want to talk about that because I think that's very interesting. You were a chef for the Cosby Show,
The last season, yeah, I was 19.
so tell me about how that happened.
So my mother moved to Haiti when I was 17,
Okay,
and I freaked out.
I bet.
And I was dating this kid. It's actually funny. I'm in the home right now of my good friend that I met in high school when I was cutting school to visit my boyfriend. She went to Stuyvesant like he did. And his mother, Sophia, was instrumental in my life. I was a skinhead. I was hanging out at CBGB's. I was just a mess. I was coming from Brooklyn to Manhattan by going into the subway vent and like finding the path. Just like I figured out which one it could open up right near CBGB's. What cuckoo kid jumping
Wow.
turnstiles, hanging out with the graffiti artists and train yards, like doing whatever, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so my mother was newly moved. Oh no, I don't think she'd moved yet. I think she hadn't moved yet. I'm at
Okay.
CBGB's. I go and I meet Alex, and he seemed fine. And then I went to his house. He lived on top of the Quad Theater on 13th Street.
Mm-hmm.
And I was obsessed with her, his mother. Like, I'd never met a woman like that. She was creative and interesting, and she was a chef. So I started working with her and getting work all over the place. So it really came, I knew how to cook from being a young person. Me and my mother were both just young people together.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized I could do that. And my mother moved to Haiti. Finally, I dropped out of 10th grade because now
Wow.
I had to work and I had to pay bills. So
Yeah.
I got an apartment on Thompson Street between Spring and Prince. It was $210 a month. My
How
grandmother
much is that
had,
apartment worth now? You bet. You wonder.
oh my God, beyond. It was a mess. I had like a crack through the thing. Almost all the native tongues at one point have stayed there because I was between all the recording
Yeah,
studios.
you're right
So with
there. Yeah.
leaders or, yeah, De La, everyone, Moni stayed there for months. Everybody would come and stay there.
Wow.
Um, so when my mother moved and Alex and I broke up and I had to kind of figure things out, all I had really in my repertoire was cooking. So I started to give myself to every single catering company because I could work all the time. And I started ghost chefing, like some fancy person on the Upper East Side was going to do Thanksgiving, but wasn't going to really cook it. That became my thing. And then I
I
met
didn't
this
even
woman
know that
named,
was a thing
oh
that
yeah,
people do. I didn't know that.
so much anymore. We're a little more honest about it's kind of cool to not know how to do shit, but in those
Yeah.
days, you like failed as a wife or as a society woman or whatever the hell was. So I'd often was hired to come in stealth like with like one assistant to prep and make a meal, and then go
Wow.
out the back, go out the servants' quarters, and like
Service
let them
quarters.
do their
Yeah.
thing. So when found this woman named Norma Darden, who's a black woman, amazing, who started a catering company called Spoonbread, and I started working with her a lot. So the Cosby Show came to her, and she was like, I can't do that. And so she insisted I go for the interview, and I just was like, "There's no way I'm going to get that job. There's no way." So I had to do a series of interviews, and then I had to cook for the cast and the team, and I got the job. It was amazing. It changed my life, and still have great friends in my life. Malcolm Jamal Warner's one,
Mm-hmm.
and just amazing
You
opportunity.
were a kid.
I was a kid. But it was great because I knew I didn't want to cook anymore after that. It was very intense. And
Mhm.
so I walked around the set to figure out what else I could do with no education. And that got me to, I mean, I don't want to say it sounds rude, but it got me into a actual proper job in the music industry.
Okay, so what was your first job in the music industry?
So, I mean, people would disagree. Q-Tip has a different because he has lots of feelings about me being in the music industry at all. But I was asked at the time, I wanted to figure out how to just get in there and do some of the creative things that I did, but I didn't know even what an internship was.
Mm-hmm.
So I called Andre Harrell and I asked him if he knew the person did publicity, because as I walked around and watched everyone's role in the Cosby Show, that seemed like something maybe I could do. And
Mm-hmm.
he introduced me to this woman named Paula Batson, who ran, they were a JV,
Yes.
Uptown Records. So the
Uptown
head of
Records. Yeah. Yeah.
publicity was Paula Batson. And so I, my first official job, even though I feel like I did a lot of stuff with you all and Tribe,
Mm-hmm.
was an intern at MCA Records.
Wow.
And Andre thought I was crazy. He's like, "You're going to give up." And I had my own catering company at the same time, remember? Caramoo Catering.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Yeah. So I gave up all that. He was like, "You're crazy to do that,
Yeah, because
Andre."
Andre was on that fly shit. He's like, "Yo, you the Cosby Show, like you fly." Yeah, I can see him being like,
Verbatim.
what are
That's
you
what he
doing?"
said.
Yeah, I know. That's how he talked. I could see him saying that. Like, what is he talking about? This Cosby Show
Yeah,
is crazy.
he was disgusted. He was
Yeah.
literally disgusted. Best decision I made. One of the best decisions.
So you were intern in publicity at MCA. Who did you oversee at that point? Well, work with at that point.
Who was my boss
None
or
of
what
your
artist?
artists with artists.
Yeah, so MCA at the time is massive. So I worked with everyone from Eric B. and Rakim to Guy to Bobby Brown to Elton John, Jodeci, Mary J. Blige,
Wow.
because all of them used the publicity department. They didn't have a publicity department
Yeah,
at
it was like
Uptown.
a central thing. And
Right.
for the people who are listening that don't know, MCA eventually turned into Universal
That's right.
Music Group over the years. So people understand that's the company that we're talking about and the size of the company that we're talking about.
Yeah, and it was interesting because, this boggles my mind why nobody bought a distribution company. I talked about this many times, but so all of them at one point, so Uni Distribution was distributed all of the MCA, Uptown, everything.
Mm-hmm.
I remember a funny story once we had a little sexual issue in the office and we had to do a
Okay.
workshop. And my particular workshop, Puffy and Heavy were in the workshop
Wow.
because now Shelby Mead left. She went to Electra, so Lachelle became coordinator and I became officially the assistant. So anyway, I moved all over from chef, but yeah, so I became a chef of the Cosby Show from that experience working with Norma Jean Darden at Spoonbread and learning how to cook through Sophia.
Wow. Wow. So you became an assistant. So that was your first like kind of official on the books job at
That's
in
right.
music.
That's
And
right.
how what did you think about it being this this new thing?
Well, because I was this Grace who just wanted to be wanted by anyone, I just would go above and beyond. So, my catering background, all of a sudden before I know it, I'm manning their first Grammy party they're doing at the door. And I started doing so many more things. Actually, they started sending me out to do press days for new up and coming uptown artists like Mary and Jodeci and Shy. It was on MCA. And I learned so much that when Barry called me and was like, "What are you doing? Like, why you're at MCA? Like, what are you doing there? Why don't you come do publicity here? Like, I don't. We have, my God, I'm blanking. Leslie,
Leslie, yeah.
and
God bless
just
her.
come, just. So I was like, fine. And then Miguel tried to offer me a job at Columbia at the same time, and Barry was not having it. And
Yeah.
so he was like, made up some tour manager position. And then the fucking first tour he puts me on was Tribe and Souls of Mischief. That's a whole nother
Yeah.
story.
Yeah. I'm still
Crazy
in touch.
too.
Well, obviously I'm still talk to Ali sometimes, and I'm still in touch with some couple of the Souls guys too.
I love that.
Jay and Domino. Yeah, just say what's up kind of thing.
I
Um
love that. I talked to Tip last a week ago.
you haven't talked to him in a minute. I need to
Yeah,
reach
he's
out.
in a really good place.
Good. 'Cause I know he was, dealing with some stuff. So I need to reach out to him. I miss that dude. Wait, so okay, so you come to Jive and you're working with Leslie, doing publicity, and how do you
I
like it?
hated it. I fucking hated it.
You took the. I said, how do you like it? And did you
Oh my
like it?
God. Love her. She's a genius, but
Yes,
complicated,
R.I.P. She passed away. She's a great person.
but complicated. So
Yeah,
then he puts me a dual role with Larry Kahn
mm.
and that guy who ran Verity.
Jazzy Jordan. No, was it Jazzy? Yes, who passed away recently too.
I did not know that.
Yeah, he passed away. He passed away like
Oh my God.
last year. Last year.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Mm-hmm.
So I being spoiled brat at Jive because Barry I could do no wrong. And remember, I came in with an artist, like, so
Yeah,
kind of was
yeah,
a
yeah, yeah,
cheat. I
yeah,
didn't know any of that then. So I was such a brat that he said, okay, two shorts coming out. And
mm.
I went and did a whole bunch of research and I was like, this is going to be hard. But I was so about it and also I love him. You know how much I love
Yeah,
him.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to figure this out. And I went on the weekend and we didn't have internet. So I just did all this research. I went to the library, I looked at old records and I found Heavy Metal Magazine. And then I found like all these old blacklight images of like women as astrology, but like all busty and stuff. And I realized I couldn't put him with live women to start because he doesn't interact really, Todd, with them. Not
No,
that he
yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
like
In a
women.
weird way, yeah, it's interesting because Too Short has this, pimpish, this pimp persona, and I'm not saying he doesn't, like women and get women because he does, but it's not what you think. Like you said, it's
Right.
not. It's not what you think. He ain't like, "Hey, bitch, come in." It's not that at all. He's very like respectful.
It was confusing to me at first. I was
Yeah,
like, and then I went to visit him in the house. Anyway,
yeah,
so I did my own thing and found an artist and that I eventually brought to the art department to draw me Too Short and all these women as the astrology signs and make a special green vinyl and do those things. So I bring it to my two bosses and they were like, this is terrible. And I lost my shit. By the way, Larry is love. Julia is still my dear friend. He's in my
yeah.
life. It was amazing. But I was being a brat. Of course, I go right to Barry. And then Barry loved it. So he was like, who do you want to work for? And I was like, Janet Kleinbaum. In my mind, I was like, she's easier. So spoiled in there. But it was great because what I ended up doing was realizing that the hip hop world was being squished again because it's a conversation, right? It was born to be a revolutionary conversation in our communities with the tools we had. And now all of a sudden it's rising up to this incredible space where the record labels want to bring them in, but they're trying to apply their old tools. Yes. So I'm watching them want to make these videos, and it was looking like hodgepodge because it'd be like someone creating a video and someone doing an album package and someone doing a single. And one day I said to Barry, I was like, if you want to be a competitive brand, you got to do the way that the advertising agencies do it, where you create a campaign. Everything has to be the tenets of one campaign, because otherwise it's confusing to a consumer. If they're not being fed, like who does this the best? You think of Diana Ross or Madonna. It's like Rihanna. They are creating, or Britney, when we got to that phase, like the album cycle, everything spoke that. The font, what they ate. Is it a popsicle versus an ice cream? Like the details. We're telling a story. We're telling a story for you to feel the music. And he really bought that hook, line, and sinker, and allowed me to just come up with what I wanted and even figure out the name of it. And then Janet was like, I wanted to call it something else, but she wanted to call it artist marketing. So I was like, great. So I started doing this.
Call it? Do you remember?
What did I want to? I bet Janet does, because she mentioned the last time I talked to her.
Okay.
I can't remember, but it was something more like, because what it really was how are we signing people and having A&R bring passionate people to us that they feel are stars? And then we're not even going to take their lead. And I'm not saying they knew what to do, but they at least knew what to do to make us feel a way to bring them in. So all I wanted to do was start from the beginning. And if it was a new artist, and I did this throughout my entire career, all the way Jay-Z, Mariah, everyone, where when we had our first meeting, it was a first meeting of bringing you back to the beginning. Like, why did you even want to be an artist? What did you feel? What did it look like? The first time you saw yourself on a stage, what did you wear? Like, bring me. Who's your favorite artist? Who's the first person who ever made you feel like you could do this? So I started doing that and starting with the A&R people and having them bring me into the studio when ready, so that I could come back in the company and say, you and I, this was kind of most of what you and I did together, because you did this naturally. Well, I was speaking to Aaliyah, whatever at the time, and their vision is this. So let's come back to them with how we're going to match that vision. Not like, I once saw a video for this group, aha, and it was so cool, so now let's pin it on R. Kelly. Like, that's what was happening.
Yeah.
And so that was really, I hated it until I started to do that. And then I was in my element, as you know. And it was just, nothing brought me greater joy than being a translator for someone's musical gift and nailing it. And then for a long time, Barry hated every video. And then one day I did this video, I think it was, I want to say Spice One, but it wasn't. And there was one scene, and you were in the meeting because you caught it too. And we both laughed because he didn't care about anything. And then this woman had huge boobs, and he was like, this video is great. And I was like, ding, ding, ding. So literally I'd be in edits for years after, and I would be like, put some tits up front so we can just get that out of the way. And then and I remember telling you that too, like, I found Barry hack.
Oh my God.
Fucking hilarious.
I always ask this question a little later. I'm going to ask it again, but I always ask people, like, give me a crazy story. And I'm going to hedge this one because I know you remember, we did a a photo shoot for Too Short. He had an album called You Nasty. You remember this? And you hired one girl who was an actual porn star.
Yep.
And another girl who wasn't a porn star, but was really pretty. And I guess into women, and I didn't tell her boyfriend. I don't know if you remember this. And her boyfriend came to the set, and you didn't make them. I'm sorry. Let me change that. We had them all stripped naked, including Too Short. And that was the photo on the album cover. Too Short has no clothes on. And he has a pillow over himself because you couldn't see it. And
I wanted to be sexy again.
Yes. That was a crazy photo shoot. I'll tell you a story of what happened off camera. But that was a wild photo shoot.
I know what happened off camera.
Oh, okay. But I remember the girl's boyfriend got pissed off and he left. He was like, you better leave now. And she was like, no, I want to do this. And he left her. And then, that was so fun.
Well, what happened was, it was the age of, just backing up to that, I had just a bad experience recently with one of our A-list artists, where all of a sudden everybody wanted these video models, right? Video vixens, whatever we called it at the time. And I did a shoot, and I had to negotiate and spend all this money on this girl. And she was so much work and rude, mean, and like it was treacherous. And so that same video, the artist was upset. So we had a day one shoot, and the next day I was like, let me go to a strip club. Let me just check it out. So I went to the strip club, and I got bottle service. I sat in the front, and I just started talking to a bunch of girls. And I was like, they were so chill and easy and already naked. And not that I needed everyone to be naked, but I needed them to be naked, meaning that they weren't coming in with their artistic career and trying to fight and battle with what the artists want. They would actually be hired and do the thing and have a good attitude.
Yeah.
So I really started to do that almost everywhere. And even up until the end with Usher, when he did that song, which I wanted, that Luke song, I'm getting to that. I was important to me that we've got actual strippers and not did some MTV video thing where we had some girls dance, but like give back a little
Yeah.
bit. And so it's always been my thing. And that comes with a complicated price because often they're not the most therapized and they're not in communities with the most therapized. And we've had a lot of situations. Remember Akinelli? Oh, I had a crazy Akinelli. Oh my God. Don't even get me started.
I'll let you briefly tell that story, then we'll move on. He owns King of Diamonds. He owns a strip club now called King of Diamonds in Vegas. It's like a massive strip club.
You know, I've been there and I didn't even know that.
He owns that.
Please, do you talk to him? I'm about to
I haven't talked to somebody else. Talks to who I forget who it was. Somebody else who still talks to them told me, and I was like, Akinelli owns that. He owns.
Oh my God, we got along so well, actually. Strangely, remember we just because I was straight with them.
Yeah, he was a nut job, but I liked him.
Nut job. I liked him too.
And we'll be right back. Ready to launch your podcast? Merrick Studios offers comprehensive services from concept development and seamless production to strategic marketing and monetization. Let your story take the mic. Visit merrickcreative.com/studios and let's get to work.
Master the art of lyricism with Pendulum Mink, the first school for rap. Learn elite techniques through immersive lessons, real-world exercises, and guidance from hip-hop icons. This is where MCs sharpen their skills and glow boldly on the mic. Ready to level up? Visit pendulummink.com and start your journey today.
And now, back to our show.
So wait, so you said, where did you go after you left Jive?
So remember, we got a tip off, wink, wink, not from Barry, that they're about to sell. And because Jive was so cheap, I would go every year and drum up interest from other people so that I could have an offer to get a promotion, like every year. And so I got a call from this lady. I can't remember her name. I loved her and I loved working for her. She was the head of marketing. Can't remember her name. She left quickly after, and then I'm having like a senior moment after that. What's his anyway?
She was at Jive?
No, she was at MCA Records.
Okay.
In LA.
Okay.
And now MCA is different because now MCA is rolling up into, because it's Universal. What's his name? French. Who runs all of it? Gideon. It's maybe Gideon. Anyway, I'm blanking.
Not Bronfman.
No, French. I also really like him. Anyway, he's still the head of Universal.
Oh, Lucien Grange.
Thank you. Lucien. What is wrong with me today? Lucien. Love him. So he rolled it up. And so now Jimmy is essentially over Geffen and MCA.
Yes, I remember that.
So they want to keep the team. And now they have all these art departments. They're looking for someone to come and do what I have done and now kind of gets famous for, which is rolling art and video together and making one community and then looking at everyone they have and deciding like who's going to be this new super team. So they brought me in to look at the Geffen and MCA departments in art and video and run them as is until I can make an assessment of the situation.
Okay.
And so I went and did that and loved it. I loved it. And then I worked with all those people that I'd known for years, but never worked with. Like now all of a sudden I'm working with The Roots and Common and Mos Def, who I knew already, but never worked with them, and Snoop and Blink-182, and like the list goes on. Interesting artists, but it was a shit show. I'm working for Jordan Shear and Polly Anthony. Wow. And I did this video for Talib Kweli called Get By, and I'm sorry, I'm going to digress here because this and so he says to me, oh, we have this producer that did the track who I want to be in the video. So I'll create this video. I get to the train tracks on 125th, I think, and we're going to shoot up there. And this kid rolls up with like a suit on, acting crazy, Kanye. And we had this whole thing. We got along okay. 3 weeks later, here comes Rashid Common. Kanye's going to direct my videos. So we get into this whole conversation. First, I think it was, one was Go with Cassie in it.
Really? Cassie was in Go?
That was a whole nother conversation because she was dating Ryan at the time. And then the other one was Go and another one. One was in Chicago and one was like on a set.
Okay.
So he comes up with this whole idea and it's great. But then he comes to set and wants to strike everything. So I tell him, hell no, that's not going down. This is not your budget. That's his budget. I had to beg and scrap for the budget I've got. It's not happening. So he called Polly Anthony. And I called him immediately and was like, don't ever call my parents again. I would never do that to you. If you have an issue, you hit me directly. I didn't give a fuck. And we got on great from there. But it was just like the beginning days of all that just brings me to like all my early Kanye. And then later on to work with him as an artist years later. But
Yeah.
he definitely was feeling himself. Then he wanted Cassie, insisting we have Cassie. It was so hard to get her. I had to get like permission from Ryan. Then she crossed hands in the middle with someone else's girlfriend. So then that person got involved. I didn't want to bring it up on here because I don't want to get involved.
Okay. Yeah, no, you don't have to.
With that person, it was a mess. It was so crazy. But yeah, I went there. And I really loved it.
Did you move to LA or were you still living in New York at this time?
So I tried to move to LA for a short period of time because I was going to run the department both. And then I was divorced. I was separated now for 3 years from my first husband, Renee, and we were getting along great. But now I'm dating someone else. I'm going to get married. And so Renee freaked out and we went to court and I had to come back instantly and work both. And I tried to quit and just do my own thing, but they told me I could bring in a number two. So I hired this girl named Ciara Pardo. Amazing. She became my right hand. I trained her and she was really there. And I would go every freaking Wednesday, had to fly to LA for the senior staff meeting, the marketing meeting, and then the TSA knew me. It was every week.
I hope you got to keep the points.
What?
Hope you got to keep the points.
Of course. I got a lot of points.
Good.
And I left there. I started my own production company. And with Vashti and Anthony Mandler and Taj and all these people, was helping photographers and directors build their own careers.
So now, what year is this about when you started the production company? You know, like a roundabout.
Yeah, I would say like 2002.
Yeah,
because I ended up doing all this. Island Def Jam Mercury had all these new artists that somehow found us. We were doing all these Rihanna, and I was starting all these Killers videos, and that's how LA came to me about coming to IDJ later on.
Wow, it's interesting.
It must have been around 2002.
Yeah, I forget who I interviewed on here, and we talked about, I forget who it was. We talked about that era and how that era has spawned so much that's happening now.
Oh, yeah.
Like those people, like a Vashti who had, Santos Playhouse and all the things she had going on as an example. And all the people that were in that place are now so big in like fashion, like I said, in movies and TV and obviously music. And you see like Rihanna and Rocky, and like they were just kids. Like hanging out, and now they've become like these mega stars. It's a very interesting place. Mega stars is a very interesting era in New York City. It was a very interesting era.
And I feel like it goes back to a lot of what I was saying earlier. It's that now music is so big, which is wonderful, all kinds. It's become so genred. Whereas at that time in New York, art was art. So if you were a Basquiat, if you were, a Futura, if you were
a sneakerhead or whatever,
right? You were a graffiti artist or a breakdancer or any of these things. Everyone was in the same place, so it was easy to create. I remember once sneaking in as like a 13, something crazy, to the mudroom and see this club, and it was like Tribeca wasn't a thing. It was dangerous down there. It was all factories.
Grace Jones all the time, Tribeca and the Meatpacking District were terrible places. They were horrible.
So I saw Grace Jones in a Jello wrestling. That's how it was down there at the time. There was Payday, Hotel Amazon. You had to know someone to text you. It was like you couldn't advertise it. So I think it spawned a time because there's so much imagination and creativity all happening in pods where it was all done. It was baked.
Yeah.
The movie where you were in the club, there was this artist, someone's drawing on a napkin, someone's performing, then you're going outside and someone's going to break dance. It was all happening around you, like a Fat Five Freddy world everywhere you went.
It's like somebody asked you tomorrow I'm shooting a movie, come by, and you go to a movie set, and it's like it was just so much going on, like you said. But if you had to be in that circle, but if you were in that circle, it was so much happening in that circle. And I remember trying to convey that a lot of times at work, and they didn't understand what I was talking about. I'm like, because if you didn't know, you didn't really even think it was probably real. It's like, because he's just bugging out. He don't really know what he's talking about,
Oh my God. And then years later, I'd be in a senior staff meeting and someone would be like, well, this weekend I was in the streets. And I was like, the streets in Scarsdale? The streets, what street? Because that's the point. It's like, these things happen not just in a street, but in an experience of a street that you have to be a part of. Whether that's the South Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, Staten Island, Minnesota, there's something that's cooking that if you're not in it, you're not in the streets. You're not
Exactly.
in the zeitgeist of what's making the sound, the art, the film have that thing.
Exactly. You managed Vashti, you said, Anthony Mandel, and who
I
else?
didn't manage them. I started a production company to build their careers and help them
you
get
were just they were
jobs.
just signed to your production company.
Yep,
Oh,
Box
okay.
Fresh Pictures. And then when I went to Island Def Jam Mercury, I took Vashti with me and Ciara also. And Anthony Mandler has gone on to be a huge director, and Vashti's doing, it was really fun. That's something that I love the most. My daughter and my son always complain, like, I met this person. They're like, your mom changed my life. But that's the thing, like, that's sparking people, and you and I share that, like, helping people figure out their passion.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my drug. I think that's why I got on with the native tongues early too, because that's all I wanted to do was like you and you make a thing, you make a thing.
You do a thing, do a record together. He should shoot the video and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So tell me about going to Def Jam with LA, how that came about.
Thank you, because I've always wanted to say. So I am now having this production company. I'm loving it. I have a house in Woodstock. I'm pretty much there Thursday to Monday if the kids are not in school, driving them. I'm being my perfect hippie self. I've got my garden. I'm good. I don't want to ever work at a record label again, right? So now we've done our third Rihanna video and like our second or third Killers video. And
so you're rolling. You're rolling.
We're rolling. We're doing so well as a company.
Which Rihanna video did you do?
Unfaithful, many. Unfaithful is the first one that came up, but we did a bunch.
Wow.
And I get this call from Jeff Burrows, of course.
Jeff Burrows.
So I was at L.A. Reid's house in the Hamptons. You know L.A. Of course.
That sounds like Jeff Burrows 100%.
Yes. I was like, I don't know L.A. Reid because I don't go to white parties and shit. Like I pour my kids out by never being able to go to anything. So I don't actually know met him.
I'm picking radishes, bro, up in Woodstock. I don't know about that.
Right? I'm at the PTA. I'm like, or at work. And you know me, I get to work 8 a.m.
Yeah.
I play my music and my team going. I'm like leaving at the thing. So LA is like, I need you on my team. And I'm like, that sounds amazing, but I'm not team available right now. Like I'm a production company. Thank you very much. You're funding it very well. But if you want, I'll help you find someone. And he was like not having it. So like 6 of these calls later, I finally have a meeting with him. I try to convince him again, like, let me help you find someone. He's like, no, I want you. And I explained, I was like, well, here's how I work. Like, I couldn't even come in for the role you want, which I think is the head of the art department is what he was offering at the time. I was like, what I do is this. And I explain what I do. And I've trained a lot of people to do that now. And I only work with people who can do everything. Like when I went to MCA, Geffen, it was my thing that if you were in video or art, you had to learn at the end how to be a full creative director to do it all. Because you weren't leaving my watch not being able to actually be viable in the world. Because nowhere else is there not a cohesive creative department at any other company. You know, it's not. So he was like, yes. So I had an attorney at the time, Jennifer Justice, who I love. But I knew that I had to advocate for myself big in this moment. So I found out who LA's attorney was, which is Kenny Mysalis. And I reached out to Kenny Mysalis and I said, this is what I'm trying to do. I want to make an offer. I want to put an offer on the table that's so obnoxious that they're going to say no, but yet not obviously so obnoxious. It's not somewhere in the realm of other deals. I don't want you to tell me anyone's deal, but guide me here. He said, absolutely. And so I gave them this offer that I would take the job if I roll the departments together. I get this much time off. I have this, like everything I wanted. And they said yes to everything. So I prayed and I was like, all right, God, I guess you're telling me what?
No pushback.
Zero. This is probably the last year of these too, I have to say.
You know, can I tell you a quick story?
Please.
Boo, Akon's brother.
My good friend.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, good, great dude.
Love him
He came by Jive one day, just random. I don't even know why he was there. I think he was there because he was working with T-Pain at the time. And he came by and we all just started, we just start talking. It was like in the office and, somebody walks in, you start talking. And Boo told me the exact same story. He said when LA wanted him to come to Def Jam, and Boo was like, all right, I'm just going to ask him for like something crazy. And he said yes. And Boo was like, he said yes.
LA's a pimp.
Yeah, and if he wants you, he wants you. And it's nothing going to stop him from getting you,
Oh my God, nothing. Yeah. And because I actually complained to Barry about this once, I was laughing. Jive is like working at Stanford or MIT. Like, we're efficient, but we're not a scene. We're not cutthroat. Even when there's an issue, it's like a little issue. I walked in that first day. It was literally like the scene of the Mean Girls movie where they're all walking in. Like it was nuts in there. I've never experienced like if you weren't hot, you wouldn't even be able to go in LA's office sometimes. It was so fucked. My first week, I get an email from someone that we both know. I'm not going to out them. This woman
Yeah, no,
was the
don't
head
out
of
them.
marketing
Yeah,
for
you don't have to.
Rockefeller at the time.
Okay.
Sends me an email, all caps. She puts on the head of Def Jam, Jay-Z, the head of Def Jam, the chairman, LA, and Steve Bartles, and me on this email about Jay's video. All caps, like trying to like shit on me. Like, you don't understand, and you think, and you, this DP, like she was tearing me a new asshole. And I remember sitting there week one, like, I should never have taken this job. Why the hell did I come here? And then I was like, I'm going to handle this the way I handle things. So instead of like, I don't know, the different ways I could handle it, I was like, got it. I sent her back an email, everyone on it. Thank you so much for your passion. I love a company that is so on fire for their artists that they'll send a very complicated word that would, and I think in the future, since your office is literally less than 100 feet from mine, that you and I as genius creative women can handle things in the future without our 2 presidents and a chairman in every email. I'm praying that's what, something like that. Crazy. At that moment, I heard footsteps running to my door, and Jay was like, yo, like I've never seen anyone. So it was hard. It was a lot. It was challenging. Like I come into life very kumbaya, like
Yeah.
I like working as a collective. I love everyone. And it was primed. I'm not even shitting on her. It was a primed situation to like beat each other's throats. Like it was set up to be fucked up. And I lost a dear friend who took his life while I worked there. And it was literally the way it was handled that made him go where he's going. Like I watched the demise of a human at other human's hand.
Wow.
And when he took his life, I called in and said, I think we need to address the company, and was shut down. Like he's weak. And after that, I checked out and I was never going to be part of the company
How
anymore.
long were you there?
3.5 years.
Yeah. Wow. Well, give me one spicy story about, besides the one you just told, which was great, about you and the girl. Give me another spicy story about one of the artists or something. I know you got a million of them.
Oh my God, I have
like
so many.
Video or whatever.
For some reason, this is coming to mind, and if it's not spicy enough, I'll give you another one. But we used to have these mandatory things at our boss's house in the Hamptons. And we had one now honoring an artist. I think it was honoring Mariah. And somebody whose name you mentioned earlier, who was not part of the label but was invited, came to the party with trays of baked infused brownies. And I remember I was in the bathroom and I said to them, be careful when you put that because the caterers are here. They're going to put that into the thing. Mm-hmm. And my second husband, my friends used to call wet blanket. And so I was having no fun and I was not going to partake in any of that anyway, because in those days I was really trying to be a good wife. And so I didn't do anything. And so I was just so tired of wet blanket by that point. I was like, let's go home and we're going to drive home. I get calls 3 hours later from like Shakir, Karen Kwok, like everyone that apparently everyone ate these brownies not knowing. Artists were lying on the floor. According to Dave Massey, who I love Dave Massey, he said one artist who will remain nameless was like in the fetal position, like, what's happening to me? People naked running down the road.
From these brownies.
And I was like, thank you, wet blanket, because of your boring ass. I didn't do any of these things. I didn't smoke or do anything.
And now I'm going home to watch TV.
But there are so many spicy stories. I mean, that place was so much fun. It was treacherous, but fun. Like, for example, every time Jermaine did a showcase, we were in Atlanta. He's got that stripper thing set up in his room. Mm-hmm. Then we would always have like a pre-meeting at the strip club, and then we'd go somewhere else. And it was just like always an adventure. And everyone was fucking fun. I don't know why I'm cursing so much today. Yeah. Everyone was so fun. Like when they were on the road.
Great artists. You guys had amazing. Your roster was insanity.
And I loved everyone. We had some people, here's some fun stories. LA at one point decides that every single person he's ever loved should get a new record deal. So now all of a sudden I'm sitting in front of Terry Lewis, and I have nothing but respect for anyone that comes before me. So I've been prepped by LA to tell him all these things that he has to do. And I'm like, luckily we love each other. But then 3 weeks later, I get Kenny, Babyface in front of me. Same thing. And then LA's like, tell Kenny what he has to do to modernize. all these things. And I just in there like, oh my God. And I had to like really have some crazy conversations with a fellow Aries, Kenny, which is not easy. But also we fell in love. Like I love him so much. But that whole process was so hard. Like I'd give a suggestion, he'd get pissed, he'd call LA would call me, he'd have to fake that he was upset, that I have to go. Such a mess. Things like that all the time. We were shooting the Kingdom Come video, Jay-Z's comeback. We were in Monaco, and then all of a sudden there was this crazy storm. Maybe we had to stay another 2 weeks, and it ended up being just like day after day of like Jay and his new girlfriend B and Trey Wap and Margot and Shaka Pilgrim and all of us like eating these, and Tata, who I'm obsessed with, and eating these amazing meals, strategizing this video for days, looking at this at
in
the
Monaco.
ocean in Monaco, like just amazing things. And then really fun things. Like I loved working with, like just some interesting younger artists that we had and doing the things that we did in our early days, which I think is what you and I are claim to fame. Like it was very important to you and I that when an artist came out, that we represented where they were from organically, authentically, them, their people, why we signed them. And I was able to kind of bring where I wasn't really able to do that so much my MCA Geffen days. I was able to really come back to that for a lot of the Rock Nation roster and a lot of the new artists. And there were so many A&R people there, and they understood that when I got passionate, I would go 1,000. Like to digress, I had this project that Mos Def was putting out called the N word, and he had no budget. So I stalked this huge photographer, Peggy Sirota, and did this amazing, just got Sue's Rendezvous to do a video shoot set up for almost for free. So that passion now I'm known for. So it was fun having all these young A&R people from KP to Jermaine to, I can keep going, coming in like trying to sell me. Boo was an intern, not Sterling, but the A&R Ray Romulus, like all these young, super talented.
Pretty Ray.
Creative people coming in, like wanting me to get their person, like sitting with them and really figuring out and even my first meeting with Rihanna, it was after SOS. And she started complaining that like some people, I won't remain nameless, were not wanting her to wear red lipstick, not wanting her to be herself, and were putting her in a box. And I said to her one line, I was like, well, every superstar I ever worked with never listened to anyone but themselves. And the first project we did together was Good Girl Gone Bad. So stuff like that. And like, I was all for like, she kept saying, LA's going to fire you. And I was like, great, let's do this. Like, and we had so much fun, like pushing the edges. And that brought me back to my childhood of like Blondie and, even like the Bow Wow Wow lead singer, Annabelle Shiora was so ahead of her time, but women who push the edges. And so it was so much fun to do that, those kind of things. I could go on and on and on.
So what now? Was that your last industry job, Def Jam? Correct.
So what had happened was everyone was so obsessed with artists at that place. That's the one thing. We signed Janet Jackson and different people, and Mariah, and I ended up doing a lot of projects that weren't so fun. And I was just starting to get tired. And my team now, because I was talking so much shit, grew. And I was now the EVP of creative, marketing, and digital. And I really had no business doing marketing at all, because I really didn't know it. I'm not good at that. You have to be a very detail-oriented person. But I hired Karen Veazey and some other people. But by that point, maybe I wasn't fucking the right people. So everything I did started to be bad. So now I'm in these marketing meetings where I'm getting slaughtered by LA. Like it was brutal.
I've heard about those meetings.
Look, literally like slaughtered. And so I was getting sick and tired of it. I'd had some complicated things where people had crossed the boundaries with me in ways that were not okay. So I was already pissed. And then my love, Shakir, was like battling a lot of stuff. The way he was being handled was disgusting. So when he took his life, I had some very strongly worded conversations and I was out. And at the same time, there was this artist who, whatever, but he brought in this kid he'd signed. And this kid was 14. His name was Justin Bieber. And he brought this manager, Scooter Braun. And I wasn't going to just trick out money. This is not the 90s. Like, I didn't operate that way. The way I operate with all new artists, as you know, is I'm going to take a tiny budget. I'm going to do some small things and see where we go. So I wanted to do a video and a photo shoot for Justin Bieber to see what he needed. Did he need training? Does he need whatever? And Usher was furious and was battling me about it. And I think Scooter was more open to kind of this.
Justin was signed to Usher at this time, correct?
And signed now to Island Def Jam Mercury.
To Def Jam, yes.
I think to Island, actually.
Okay.
To Island Mercury. But they ran the creative for all Island Def Jam and Mercury group. when that whole thing happened, I started working very closely with Scooter and Usher. And Usher's career was not going so well at the time. It was post Tamika. He made a lot of stances. He was a little bit ahead of his time in that now it is so cool to be about a relationship. Then it wasn't. He was a heartthrob. It was weird. He did that weird TRL thing. And he kept asking me to help him. And I was like, I have a contract. I cannot be helping you, you know? And frankly, I'm not a fan. You know, I'm not. I like two songs. He took my iPod at the moment. I had two songs on there, Love in the Club and You Got It Bad. That was it. And but then when Shakir passed, I said to him and Ciara and I, because at one point Rihanna was blowing up and she really needed dedication. And there was a lot of people who had the Chris Lighty thing where I only talk to the head, which I'm not about that. Talk to her as the best person. So I had Mariah and Jay and Janet and Kanye. It was a lot at the same time. I think Big Sean.
That's a lot.
So I introduced Rihanna and Ciara. And there's the girl who was doing the Justin Bieber stuff, Gabrielle Schwartz. And I was like, I think you two would be the best Rihanna team, and put them together. So now me and Ciara are going to form a company to work with Usher, possibly Kanye with some conversations, and Usher. So I started this little company. We started a company called Pyre, and we started doing things with them. But I couldn't have imagined how much work that was going to be. So I was working with Lionel Richie at the time, and I met Randy, who was his manager, and he was bragging he had another carve out. And I realized that what Janetta did with Usher at the time was try to bring his touring back to females and did the For Ladies Only tour. And that was wonderful in concept. But you know how touring is. So once you're a stadium or arena, if you go to theater, the promoters think you're theater. So I had this challenge now. So I brought Randy in and I was going to just kind of help, you know, and now there is some funny business happening. So I'm kind of like a girlfriend-ish. So I was trying to just not be in the thick of it. And so Randy came in and that was fantastic, but it needed so much more. I just didn't know. I was so inexperienced. I had no idea. I think not knowing really what management really needed was good for me at the time. And then I went into full management when Usher and Randy just imploded. And that was hard. And I did a kick-ass job. I told you, I called Barry.
Yeah.
Barry had always been a champion of mine. And I called him about this opportunity and he shit all over my dream. Like, he's like, no, you're not going to be a good manager. Don't do this. And that fueled the shit out of me. And I was like, I'm going to make this happen. And that changed his film business, got him in movies.
Yeah.
The Voice, you know, rearranged, helped him figure out how to start writing songs. Climax was the first song he really wrote. Wes and Salam Remy and, you know, his style, art, philanthropy. Like, I really worked the shit out of that for multiple years.
You really did a great job at really reinventing him.
Right.
So if he would have stayed on that path previous to when you got involved, I doubt very seriously he'd be where he is now as an artist.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that from a vanity place. There were conceptual things that he had to change. You know, humping the steering wheel.
Yeah.
He hates when I talk about that, and that's not bad. It's just that there's nothing in life that can stay the same. You know, money is an issue. You know what? People always wonder why Michael Jackson's hanging out with all these people in the Middle East, but he didn't have a private business. And you only can, and I learned that from Lionel. And the only way you can have a private business is to have some pop things that someone wants a wedding or a thing. And that sounds cheesy, but they're going to spend $3 million alone for your fee for that.
Absolutely.
And then that's going to afford you when the Grammys and the Oscars and the Super Bowl's not paying a dime. You're not coming out of pocket. Yeah. So I really wanted to build an ecosystem that was sustainable forever. So that I consider as my last label job because it was horrible. I mean, I learned so much and I got to do some amazing fun ass shit around the world. I mean, you and I could have a whole talk. I got to do some wild ass shit, but it was just the hardest thing I've ever done, including parenting. You know, it's the family. It was a lot.
It was a lot.
And then I left there mentally, emotionally, and physically broken. And I was like, I'm never going to do that again. Like, I'm never going to neglect myself to that place in my life again. And I went on a journey of discovering myself for the first time.
Yeah.
And see how so much of the shit in the music industry that I thought was just par for the course was really terrible.
Yeah, it is.
And it broke a lot of us. And, you know, you and I together, we have so many adult friends that have taken their life. And I have a lot of friends who don't have that. And I think it's a lot about what the music industry pushes about your validity in the world based on these relationships. And I didn't have that part, but I definitely was so inside of all of it that I was a part of all that.
Yeah, for so many people in the music industry, that becomes your personality, your personality, and it becomes who you are. Like, I'm Jeffrey Sledge from Warner Brothers. I'm, Michael Thompson from Def Jam. It's like that becomes part of your name almost, where you're working and what you do. And if you say you lose a gig or something happens and you lose that, it's almost like people are like, well, who am I? Because I don't have my corporate card. I can't go to Monaco. I can't go to the video shoot. I can't go to a party at the Soul House. It becomes so ingrained into your life that when it's gone, people feel lost. People sacrifice families. A lot of people don't never get married. A lot of women never have children because it's about the job first, and then you look
That's
up
right.
and it's like, what did I? Now I'm, no disrespect, I'm 55, and I have maybe some good money in the bank, but that's really it.
And do you? Because there's also this whole mentality, like LA told us we had to look a certain way to be the C-suite. Like I had to wear heels, I had to look a certain
I
way.
heard
And like
about that.
people are spending money.
I heard about that.
People are spending money. And also I think too, it's like, thank God I had friends. Most of my friends to this day are friends I've had since I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And, amazing friends that I've amassed like you over the years, but we have a real bond of a real friendship. So many people think that, like Jay-Z's your friend. And maybe he is during the project, but if you're looking to call him after and you're basing your value on that, you're in trouble.
In trouble.
It's funny you say that about women. When I first was in the music industry and I was at Jive, Julia and I wanted to start a community for women who were starting out. And I reached out to Polly Anthony, Michelle Anthony, Sylvia Rohn, a few people. And I remember Sylvia saying, all of them in different ways, but yeah, give up wanting to have a family. Like you got to really prove yourself as a woman and be 10 toes down. And I was like, oh, I'm not going to make it in here then because I'm definitely having children.
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely doing all these things.
Then
but
you're going to be a mom, not just having children, but you're a mom. Like you're like a real mom. You just like have a kid and the child's at your mom's house all the time. You're like really involved with your kid to this day, with your kids' life.
And I'm absolutely not shitting on Sylvia. Sylvia has given me opportunity, and she's amazing. But that's what was being promoted to them.
Exactly.
And that's what's trickling down to women now, like you're saying.
Yeah. So before we wrap, tell me a little about the Joy Strategist. You're a Joy Strategist.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about that. Just how you came to be. You've written a book. Tell me about this phase of your life.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I wrote a book. It's called The Joy Strategist. It's on Disney. I had a bidding war over the book. I didn't know that was even a possibility. The whole thing was surreal. But really, it started for me years ago. And being a mother and having young parents, it gave me a wonderful opportunity to write this new script in a lot of ways. Like, how do I want to parent? And I remember working with this life coach, and she couldn't get me to get a lot of things about myself. And then she said, you know what? The one area where you're doing the thing I want you to do is in parenting. And because no one can tell you anything about that. Like, there's no touching that. And not that no one can tell me. I'm listening to people who are older people, have raised kids, and I'm taking information, but no one is attacking my version of the mastery of it, the way I feel. And I realized that I wasn't doing that with myself. Like I'd missed this amazing opportunity alongside these children to reinvent myself, to grow and expand past this pre-verbal story I told myself when I was a baby wanting to have love. Oh, you know what? They didn't pay attention when I did that cartwheel, but they really liked it when I made dinner. They really liked it when I brought the mail in. So I taught myself this hyper-vigilant caretaker person is love, and just took that show on the road forever with partners, with coworkers, with everyone. And I'd never stopped to feel like, what do I feel? I'm getting divorced now the third time, happily, because I worked hard in all those relationships, but something's wrong here. And I don't believe that there's anything as one-sided. There's nothing that anyone can do to you without some version of your permission and getting something out of it, even if it's horrible, So I had to look at that part of myself that's not sitting here villainizing Usher as being the downfall of my life, but like, what did I sign up for? And it was sad what I saw. It was sad what I experienced in myself. And then I started talking about it with all my friends. No one could see it because we're all so committed to not seeing it. And so I really wrote this book for my own children to talk about my kids right now. My daughter thinks I walk on water. She thinks I'm the best mom in the world. My son, he's got a lot of complaints, a lot. And I hear him. And I hold both because they're both true. Because that's his experience, that's her experience.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I was like, I had never allowed myself to have that experience of myself. So that was really important. And it really helped me also shed spiritual egoism of wanting everyone to be a certain way or change. Remember, I used to try to feng shui everyone's office. So now I just like, this is what worked for me. And this is how I am, I feel so good. I feel so alive. I feel but I've also the most under-resourced in my whole life. I'm the most like, I'm not in a relationship. I mean, I'm in an intimate relationship, but I'm not in a traditional marriage. But all of those things were making me move forward in a way of a life I built that wasn't a true life for me. It was the life that I was supposed to build based on the model of success that I thought was supposed to happen. And so now I do retreats and workshops. I do everything from couples work. I do a workshop called the Oracle of Oral. And it sounds really naughty, and it's not really. It's more to understand that being intimate with anyone starts with using your voice and learning what you feel is good to you. What do you enjoy? And we can't even express that to each other. So how can we even be mad about someone not being an incredible partner or lover or whatever we're mad about? And then I do one called The Empire of Me, which is going back to Jeff Sledge from day one and saying, let's redo this. Let's start this from scratch. I started my process. I was swaddling myself. I started giving myself a bath during the pandemic and reading a book. Like I started just to go back and instead of wah, wah, wah about my parents, started to reintroduce the parenting to myself that I needed. And I went back and had a meal with each of my parents alone, like I'd never met them before. And just tried to find the humanity and like, where are we? Where do we relate? Let me put down the story of what you didn't do 35 years ago, realizing that everyone is an amateur parent the very first time. Everyone. So how can I approach this differently and not continue this family karma of my son hating me or my kids having an issue? And they're just taking responsibility for that. So it's been fun. It's been hard. Pre-pandemic, people laughed at me. Joy? What?
Yeah.
Now people are like, joy. I'm desperate for joy.
I need it.
But even more than that, everyone's issue is our interpersonal relationship. So I've been doing a lot of joy work more about intimacy than anything. Yeah. Intimacy with how you're with yourself, honest with yourself. So it's been interesting. It's been an interesting run.
You know what I always tell people? I tell a lot of my friends now, you see, pictures of your parents, at a party back in the day or, whatever, a cookout, whatever it is. And I'm like, yo, bro, like, think about it. Like now where we are now, we're probably like 15 to 20 years older than they were in this picture. They were kids, man.
Exactly.
Like they were kids. So,
That's right.
I've thought about that a lot too. It's like, like they didn't know. It was like 20 something years old and they were trying to do this thing. And, of course, making mistakes along the way because they didn't know, or a lot of them had bad examples. So you can't really like you said, you can't be like, oh, my father did this and it's fucked up. My mother did this and she didn't, they hopefully were trying the best they could. And, they just didn't know. And now you look at them now, it's like, yo, yeah, they were like 23 in this picture. And we always looked at them as old, but they were kids trying to figure it out, I
also think that's important too. Like part of what I was saying I was on the success model. We till this day live this idea of life, especially promoted by media, movies and things, that we're supposed to be on this happy trail. But actually the only true path to happiness is holding your shadow and your light at all times. And I've done a lot of things in my life that I'm not necessarily proud of, but I'm grateful because if I hadn't had that diamond moment, like that forging or that cracking open or that, I wouldn't have the awareness to help me grow and expand to really lean into the magic and joy I feel now. And so I've been really working to feel into things that feel amazing and things that don't feel amazing and holding them both as magic.
Well, thank you, Grace. This was fun.
I know I talked your ear off. There's so much.
You absolutely did not talk my ear off. You absolutely did not. You did what I wanted you to do. I wanted you to share your story. You didn't talk my ear off. We talked my ear off. We could do this for 5 hours.
I know. I was like, I remember this story.
Yeah. No, but this was fun. I really had a good time.
Thank you. Me too. I always lovely seeing you.
Always lovely. You can catch Mixed and Mastered on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, or wherever you get your podcasts. Hit that follow button, leave a review, and tell a friend. I'm your host, Jeffrey Sledge. Mixed and Mastered is produced and distributed by Merrick Studios.